What is new moon, full moon, menstrual cycle? For us women, we naturally sync up our menstrual cycle with the new moon or full moon. And as we change, let's say we relocate, we change homes, we move to a different city or even move to a different country, as we change our routine, our circadian rhythm changes sometimes throughout the year or throughout seasons. Even seasonal changes can affect the change of the menstrual cycle from, let's say, a new moon menstrual cycle to a full moon menstrual cycle. Even our sexual activity can affect our menstrual cycle from, let's say, new moon to full moon menstrual cycle. Even having a baby can change our menstrual cycle. So all of these changes, we call this death, birth, rebirth, that a woman experiences consistently. That's the one consistent thing a woman will experience quite intensively throughout her life with this menstrual cycle. So I'm going to share with you the difference between the new moon menstrual cycle and the full moon menstrual cycle. Now, a little bit about myself in my journey of the yoni journey, which the yoni is the female reproductive system. It has everything to do with menstrual cycle, has everything to do with the orgasmic pleasure, the orgasmic flow, the flow of creativity that a woman possesses in her womb. Can do everything to do with womb steaming, womb blessing, ecstatic dance regarding healing the sexual energy. And you can even, yoni has to do with moving the hips, right? When we go in a deep squat and we really open up the hips and the pelvic area, or when we're doing a Hawaiian dance and we're really shaking the hips and we're moving a lot of energy in the yoni. The yoni is considered the furnace, right? The pilot light, we light the pilot light, and the furnace has some warmth, some heat, right? And then that heat moves into the heart. And the heart vents out the excess heat, such as, excess heat would be anger or rage or resentment, bottled up feelings. So the heart is this vent that vents out that heat. And also the heart is like a candle where it consolidates the flame, right? The furnace is this wild beast of energy, right? And then the kundalini, which women possess as well as men, that represents the consolidation of that flame becoming like a candle. So whenever I imagine my heart, I imagine it as a white candle, just there at the altar of my ancestors, or the altar of the archangels, such as with Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene and Kuan Yin and Shakti, a white buffalo woman, and Green Tara. So I see the white flame of the heart representing the continuity of compassion, unconditional love from one woman to the next woman, such as Green Tara and Mother Mary, white buffalo woman, Kuan Yin, right? And I am connected to that continuity of light through the candle of my own heart. So that's about the yoni and how it's connected to the womb. And the womb, we know, is a place of creation. It's a very holy place, the womb. And that the menstrual cycle is a part of that beautiful space, that sacred space for creation. And what makes it so sacred is that women, we do have the magic, you can say, the creativity to give birth to a generation that has tools, techniques, and talents of a higher vibration through our efforts as women to vibrate the cosmos. We can give birth to children that they know how to excel, They know to how to reach their creative destiny and their higher potential. And this is something as women, since sisterhood has been separated, where sisterhood is in throughout the patriarchal age has been discriminated, right? Black women against white women, it's been discriminated. There's been a segregation among women, where women can't be with women. Women have to, basically, they are the property of men, right? So they can't be with their sisters. They can't live with their sisters or their mother, the grandmother. They have to go out and to obey the father's demand and obey the husband, right? And this sort of woman being property. And woman sisterhood, working on the esoterics of the womb was quite forbidden. It was quite, it was prosecuted in many ways. Like when we think of Mother Mary and even Mary Magdalene, these women were basically prosecuted in many ways for possessing this wisdom of the womb and the yoni. During a period of time in the Dark Age, basically, where that was completely not accepted. It was shamed. Actually, it was ridiculed. This type of knowledge on the womb and the blessing and the sacredness that gives a woman the glow, the radiance of her soul. So the womb is one of the deepest prayers a woman can offer. Her womb is the deepest prayer. So my menstrual cycle started out quite it was quite hijacked, honestly, but because of birth control. I took birth control, various different forms of birth control. I don't even remember the different forms I took. All of them were like pills. None of them like shots. None of like patches or anything of that nature. It was all like pills. But I took these pills since I was like, I started when maybe I was like 14, all the way up until I was like 17, possibly 18. I would go on and off of them, which again made my menstrual cycle even more wanky and even more all over the place. And I took these birth control pills because I just didn't have the time of day to take care and nurture my menstrual cycle, because when I was young I was in so much activities. I didn't have time to go through the menstrual cycle because my time was so filled up. I didn't have time to change my pads, consistently throughout the day. So I tried to stop the flow. I didn't want to bleed that much. And when I look back, my menstrual cycle really wasn't, it was very normal to what it is today. It's just, since I was so active, I was taking multiple dance classes a week, going to school, and also being in like cheerleading and in my school, and also being in dance club in my dance in my school, and then soccer, and then like softball and horseback riding. All of these activities my mother was very enthusiastic about getting me into, because she wanted me to reach my potential, and she was willing to provide the tools, the techniques, and the talents that was required in order to reach higher potential. And she very much follows the Waldorf method when it comes to raising children, which is the Waldorf method of raising children is very similar to when we think of Yogi Bhajan and his idea of raising children, which is giving them the tools, techniques, and talents they need. It's providing for them, not just providing for just the pay rent, which is the food, the food, the water, the shelter, but also providing what a child would need to really to step into their creativity. And my mother, even though she was a single mother and a large portion of my life, and we in many ways were we were in a financial, just middle class, right? Like a lower middle class, but we've always had we always put my mother always put her investment, you could say, into to me, into the right place, right? Into the right place that she felt would give the best return investment, right? Her own child, right? So with the dance classes, when I was on my menstrual cycle, it made me it was very slow and sluggish, and I'm an Aries, so I'm like, I have to be I have to be I have to be active all the time. I have to be energized all the time. I can't be sleeping and sluggish. Like, even to this day, I'm very active in creativity and creation and working on craftsmanship. So for years, my menstrual cycle was all over the place. I don't even remember ever thinking about my menstrual cycle being on a new moon or a full moon, because I think every month it was different, because I wasn't taking my pills regularly. I was forgetting, and then I would take 4 at once because I would forget to take the last couple days, so then I would take 4 at once, which really made me gain weight. By having that kind of relationship with my pills, I gained weight. I was just in a hormonal situation. I felt a lot more sensitive in my breasts, especially, very, very sensitive in general. I didn't feel very comfortable in many ways with my menstrual cycle, because it was very unpredictable, and frankly, it wasn't natural. It wasn't in a flow. It was like I was trying to block it, or I was trying to, like a beaver dam, trying to block the flow from coming down the river, because I just didn't want to deal. So I stopped taking the pills, and it took me about years to really recover. And I noticed, as I started to come off of these pills, I started also to lose weight significantly. And I also, my menstrual cycle became a lot more fluid. And with that fluid, I think it also it helped my metabolism as well. When my menstrual cycle was healing from basically having hormonal, just having these my hormones being hijacked, right, by these pills, I start to my metabolic health became even more youthful than when I was younger on these pills. It became a lot more youthful. My digestion became a lot more smooth, which was something I've always had difficulties with when it comes to my digestion, and when it comes to you can say constipation and being backed up and having an elimination process. I wasn't eliminating. I was kind of, and that's why I would gain weight, because I didn't have basically a very smooth metabolic system. It was very much hijacked by these wanky hormones that were causing this sort of effect on all the systems. So when I started to get into Kundalini yoga and Kundalini yoga meditation, that's when my menstrual cycle became so divine, you could say. It really evened out, and it got so harmonious for me. And then I had sexual violation. And then around that time, in my early 20s, my menstrual cycle became so wanky. Right when I started to participate in sex and have the sexual violation especially, my menstrual cycle, it basically synced up. This will sound very interesting. My menstrual cycle, it started to sync up with my partner, my boyfriend at the time. It started to sync up with him, and meaning our hormones were starting to sync up with each other, where we could even like sense each other. We won't even be in the room, but we could sense each other hormonally. It's like a pheromone. Like we could feel each other's smell each other's pheromones from like miles away, type of thing. and he was also synced up to my menstrual cycle as well, where he would know the periods where I would be at the most high sexual drive, you could say, the sexual peak or something like that. And I would also be synced up to him and his sort of rhythm, his sexual rhythm. And when I had that sexual violation at the end of that, the basically the last day I ever saw this person, my menstrual cycle became like such the worst thing you could ever imagine. Because in having that sexual trauma, that was a major psychological blow. Like that was, it broke my trust. It broke my trust for men. It broke my trust for myself. I broke trust. And when you have like this major distrust in you, that causes all kinds of problems, for especially for the lower chakras, which is the root chakra and the navel. So my root chakra and my navel in many ways was off. I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel comfortable. I felt I couldn't trust myself. I definitely couldn't trust men. I wanted to be alone. I isolated myself. I actually frankly felt scared. And then also I was going through another situation with somebody else, that somebody was trying to hurt me, and like some sort of more of like a stalking legal situation. And all of that made me feel quite violated. In that violation made me feel very unsafe, and like I couldn't trust myself. So psychologically, the feeling of worthlessness, that psychological worthlessness that a lot of us women deal with, even with men partners, they transfer it to us women because we're so loving. We want to heal everyone, right? Every woman is like that. But the greatest lesson women learn pretty early on in this society, driven by men, and some men think they can do whatever the hell they want, right? It's a man's world, right? Is discernment and boundaries. And that's something all of us women will learn at some point in our life. And unfortunately, some of us we're forced to learn it from sexual violation, sexual assault, rape, sexual harassment, and some of us experience it very young as women. So we have to grow up as women very quickly in this man's world, because we have such a healing energy about us women. We're so magical, and in this world where men, and sometimes they directly want to take it away from women. They want to they want to break it down. We have to develop discernment and boundaries so that we can preserve this beauty that we are, right? To not allow a belief system, a patriarchal belief system, to destroy that, because that's what the future demands at this time. Creative expansion, and ultimately it's looking like the women, the femme consciousness is going to be the one. Again, this is women, but it can also be a male body. It's the female, the femininity. And that can be expressed in a male or a female body. But it looks like the femme consciousness, femininity, is going to be the leader of this new age, this Aquarian age, because it represents creative expansion, right? It represents healing, and we can't move forward from a dark age that was quite gruesome and quite brutal into an age of technology carrying all of this trauma and this karma from a place where we've been. So we got to heal that. And the femme consciousness, femininity, represents the tools, techniques, and talents on how to heal your life, so we can have a better relationship with ourselves and this planet, and with our lineage and generations in the past and in the future. So I went through a year or two, almost 2 years of this pain. My menstrual cycle was like pain. Psychological pain mostly. I had the worst negative thoughts you could ever think of, worthlessness to the max. It was just on full blast, and I realized how I was syncing up my rhythm with this man, And this man had very low self-worth. And at the time, of being naive, being very young, I just wanted to heal. I wanted to be a healer, which I am, and wanted to heal this person's, karma, and heal, this person's low self-worth. I was like, I'm strong. I'm a strong woman. I can do that. But then I realized it's not for me to do. It's not my responsibility to do that. It's nobody's responsibility, right? They have to do it themselves. And so I took on a lot of the weight of this person, psychologically, emotionally, physically. I took on like pounds and pounds of this person's like garbage, like whatever garbage that they had that floating around in them, their psyche. I took it on. And when I started, my menstrual cycle would basically would be purging the attachment, the garbage that this person basically transferred to me, or, sort of, wanted me to carry for them. They're all this low self-worth. And I never had this low self-worth ever. I was always quite like a Leo energy. I was in dance. I loved animals. I was like horseback riding. I was doing my spirituality when I was very young. I loved my home, my mother, and that I never had such low self-worth. That was never me. But when that was transferred, it was like rot. It was something like, I felt like something that like a rotten was in me, right? So my period being a lover, right? My period being a lover would heal that and would try to release it, purge it, right? Cleanse it. And it took me those 2 years to really beat that psychological, I'm thrown away. That's something I dealt with. I was thrown away. I'm thrown away because that's what that person said to me. You're thrown away. So it took me years to process that, because it was so devastating to hold that. I throw away you, or throw away women, or something like that, because it was so against what I stand for, which is women, loving women. I want women. They're beautiful women. All of them, regardless of if they're Asian, black, white, Hispanic. So it went almost against everything that I stood for as a woman, everything that I wanted for this planet. This person just tried to, in my eyes, try to break that down. And I understand now this person made major mistakes that they, have to get the karma for. But with my menstrual cycle, it would help me heal that, which when I look at that relationship, it actually was a blessing in disguise, because in the pain that I faced, it pushed me to become the woman I am today. It pushed me to grow up and to be a woman, because I had a choice. I could be this young girl who has these problems, or I could rise above and I could be this woman who is empowered, right? So I made a choice. I made the wise choice. I said, you know what? I'm not going to be a young girl with problems, right? Sexual problems, psychological problems. I'm going to be the woman who's empowered. So what I did is I got into painting really deeply, I don't even think I would have that many paintings today if I didn't go through that sexual trauma, that relationship, because all of that sexual energy would be healed through painting. And I would paint so much painting, because it was a way of me to express my beauty, that I felt like it was like I was questioning it. Like I felt like, am I even beautiful? Like my self-worth just really it was like a low. It was degraded, right? So it was really degraded. And this is what relationships will do for us women. They either do nothing for our self-worth, they either degrade our self-worth, or they elevate our self-worth, right? And we have to pay attention to which category we're in, because, but every relationship, regardless, they give you a choice. You can be the problem, meaning carry the problem, be the problem, or be affected by the problem in that relationship, or you can be empowered, which you can be a woman who gets more resilient and takes on more of the virtues of what it means to be a woman, right? Which is to be in personal power. So right now, over the getting more into my Kundalini yoga and painting, and getting more into my divinity and femininity as a woman, through Hawaiian dance, through piano, through singing, chanting, really getting into the natural rhythm of this earth, getting really close with Mother Earth. My menstrual cycles are very in sync with Mother Earth. It's almost like me and Mother Earth are just one. We're one the same. And some women don't have this relationship because they're not rhythmic. They're not rhythmic with the earth, right? So it's definitely important, especially as women, because we can be more grounded than men, especially in this society today. It's important for us as women to get very synced up with the earth, with Mother Earth, and find a ritual, a sacred practice, even Kundalini yoga that can help us get in sync. So, in the new moon menstrual cycle for me is very much about peace, relaxation, and it's a very calm experience. The new moon is actually, there's a lot of this is where the menstrual cycle happens a lot. It happens a lot deeper because the gravitational pull with the new moon is actually it's stronger, right? The pull. So the menstrual, the bleeding could be a lot more, and it can be a lot. It feels like a deeper feeling, like a more, but also relaxed, like the flow. It's a lot more fluid. And when it comes to like psychological, hormonal, emotional, the other sort of 10 bodies, it's it feels more magical at this new moon. It feels more magical, like very fertile. And on the full moon, I'm a lot more active. I'm very creative. Like I want to do something, right? And that is why the full moon can feel a little bit more intense, a little bit more vigorous, because it feels like I'm giving birth during the full moon, which like in labor, that kind of sensation where there's so much energy that wants to move out of me and I'm trying to push it out of me. And how I do that is like I really want to do exercise. I really want to, do things, just move my body. And also the full moon is a lot more intense psychologically and on the other 10 bodies, because the full moon gives me a really deep cleanse in the way, like purging wise of these really deep emotions or things that are, we can call the shadow or something like that, which are fears and anxieties and denser. The full moon really helps me sort of purge really dense human emotions that we're all a part of the collective, so we take on these human emotions all the time. So the full moon, it helps me with humanity and clearing out these beliefs in the humanities template, which is a lot more vigorous and tense. And in many ways it really does bring up a lot of fear for me, a lot of fear when it comes to like doubt. It brings a lot of that up. But the new moon, again, the new moon period is more of a restoration, while full moon feels more of like creative expansion. And sometimes, very interesting, sometimes there will be new moons that will be very powerful, and I will sync up to both. Like literally, I'll have a full moon period, and then I'll have, within that same month, I'll have a new moon period. And because both of those moons are really powerful, so it's really whatever is the most powerful moon wins, meaning my period will usually come with the most powerful moon. So many times it's the full moon, because the full moon is it has this, since I'm so much of an active person, I have this 5 frequency, which 5 is about creative expansion. I'll sync up with the full moon because I'm naturally very much creative expansion. I'm very alive and active, and that's why I sync up to the full moon, because I am the archetype of the full moon. I represent the full moon in my routine and how I interact with life. Very much like giving birth to creativity. But there's new moons that will be very powerful. Like this new moon Gemini, I have my menstrual cycle that comes because this is a very powerful one. This is a very, very powerful new moon. And it's not every new moon. And sometimes I'll switch. Sometimes I'll just have new moon. And then sometimes I'll just have full moon. And it will switch constantly with the kind of the power that's surging through this planet from the moon. And I'm telling you, when it's very powerful, when there's months that are very, very like powerful, I will have it on both. Because it's like an additional clearing that happens for me during this. And then it's not very, right, sometimes you can have, like, I have it twice in a month or sometimes, but usually with the new moon it feels longer. Like I'll have it 3-4 days. With the full moon sometimes I'll have it 2 days and then I'll go, because the full moon, I'm so active, I'm so creative, I have so much energy, so much power surging through me, that my period can't even stay, because that power completely just overrides the period that's moving through me during the full moon. But in the new moon, I'm more receptive, I'm more like grounded, more like seated in prayer. I like to just sit and chant sometimes for a long period of time, and that's usually when my period can go a lot longer, like 4 or 5 days sometimes, because I'm actually really receptive. I'm not moving, going, or doing. I'm more about being. I'm more just in this flow of elegance. And that's why the new moon menstrual cycle can be a lot more relaxing to have than what I found the full moon, because the full moon just is like, it feels like internally I'm like, there's some sort of, I'm dancing, like there's some sort of fire, like a big wildfire. But the new moon, it feels like I'm more like reflecting on the lake or something like that, which is a very different experience of your menstrual cycle, to be dancing around a fire, right, with your ancestors, dancing and liberating yourself, than sitting by a lake and receiving the tide, and the tide washing up oysters with shells inside, or pearls inside, right? That's a very different experience. Both are quite extraordinary, but it's very different. So new moon is, the imagery is sitting by a lake. The lake tide is being pulled by the new moon, and the lake washes up onto the rocky shore, right? Oyster shells. These oyster shells have pearls in them, right? And then the full moon menstrual cycle is a big fire, and I like to imagine Native Americans dancing around this fire with a drum, and just their heart is on fire, right? Their heart is on fire. They're sweating. They're dancing for 8 hours, because that's what I feel like I want to do on my full moon menstrual. I want to dance for 8 hours to the rhythm of my heart, and the passion and the desire of my heart, the yearning, the belonging of my heart. So I just wanted to share this with you all as a exploration for women, right, who are coming more into their femininity, coming more into their grace, their beauty, and their personal power, so that they can learn what it is to get in touch with their magic, and begin to use this magic to manifest out in this world, manifest potential and opportunity and possibility and creativity that this planet needs. This planet needs creative expansion, and that is definitely going to be pioneered by the femme consciousness, by femininity, because we have the tools, the techniques, and the talents on what it means to creatively expand, what it means to move beyond an old age, what it means to shed the weight of the dark age, what it means to elevate ourselves beyond the karmas of the past on this planet, and what it means to really sync up with Mother Earth, so that we can have a very natural experience with Earth, where we are very in this hyper synchronization with the Earth that really grants us a lot of being at the right place, right time, a lot of magic, a lot of blessings, a lot of opportunity, a lot of intuition, but also so we can have a harmonious relationship with this Earth, so that we can start to really cultivate a future that with a future of this Earth, that human beings are, they're in a good place. They feel good about themselves, and therefore, when they feel good about themselves, they have a better relationship with themselves and then their kids, and then we'll start to see more generations that are making more creative choices rather than destructive choices based off of I don't like myself, I hate myself, right? So that's what the femininity really represents on this planet for the future of the human species.